Happy Thursday afternoon. I wanted to check in with you today because I just found out something kind of cool. You guys know how much I love the macronutrient protein and how I feel like everyone should be getting more protein, especially if you're a woman or a man or a child or a human. You should probably be getting more protein. So I wanted to give you a little bit of the background as to why that is. In my biochemistry class today, I learned that your body actually utilizes up to 400 grams of protein a day. 400 grams of protein a day. Somewhere between 300 and 400 grams of protein a day is what your body uses to create new protein and to break down existing tissues in the body. That's a lot of protein. So, just a thought exercise. If you're watching this video, go through your daily meal plan, in your head and think, how much protein am I getting a day? What's my protein count for breakfast? What's my protein count for lunch? What's my protein count for dinner or snacks? Hey, what's my kids' protein count for the day? We aren't getting enough protein. All right, protein's mostly found. My kids ask me, is there protein in this? Which is a great question. Like, your kids should be asking that question. So I tell them protein usually comes from an animal. Yes, you can get some protein from plants. It's usually an incomplete protein, which just means it lacks a complete set of amino acids. Amino acids are what your body actually uses to build new tissue. You don't actually use protein, you use amino acids. So your body has to break down that dietary protein that you ingest into 20 or 21 amino acids. And you will use those for everything from making new gut tissue to making new hair, skin, and nails to making your neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. Your body uses amino acids. It also uses amino acids just, for energy, for fuel. And if you're not creating enough amino acids through diet, ingesting enough amino acids, your body has to break down its own tissue to create those amino acids. So that is something a body can do if you're healthy and if you're only deficient on protein for a little bit of time. If you're deficient on protein for a long period of time, you can start to manifest with clinical or subclinical protein deficiency diseases. You've probably heard about kwashiorkor just, in the course of schooling at some point. Kwashiorkor is a protein deficiency disease. We don't experience a lot of kwashiorkor in the United States, right? Like, you don't know your next door neighbor or your cousin that's had something like that clinically. However, it was interesting to me when I was going through my studies today to realize that just like subclinical hypothyroidism, which essentially means, you are walking around with a metabolism that's compromised, that's not functioning as optimally as it should, not as quick as it should. If you, have depressed body temperature, if your heart rate's low, if you're losing hair, not skin, probably not losing skin. If you're losing hair and your nails are brittle, you're tired all the time, you probably have compromised thyroid function. It's not functioning appropriately. So if your T3 and T4 markers are normal, your doctors say they're normal, but you're manifesting with all these symptoms. By the way, high cholesterol, symptom of hypothyroidism. Super heavy periods, symptom of hypothyroidism. So, the lab work doesn't say everything. If your symptoms are consistent with inadequate thyroid function, then you are probably subclinically, which just means it's not a clinical diagnosis, but subclinically hypothyroid, low thyroid function. Okay, so in that same vein, I realized you can probably have subclinical kwashiorkor. That's a mouthful, right? But it basically means that while you're not completely protein deficient, you can start to experience symptoms of being, future protein deficient. So I just want to pull up on my textbook a couple of these things. If you are subclinically kwashiorkor, suffering from that, number one, you're ingesting insufficient protein. Number two, I wanted to point out some of the symptoms. So edema or swelling. Do you have edema in your legs, in your ankles, in your arms, in your neck? Do you feel swollen all the time? Edema is more of an actual tissue swelling. And so it's not, necessarily just that feeling of being bloated. But if your arms and legs are, edematous, where you can push your finger into your arms or your legs or your ankles and your skin stays depressed for a period of time, you have edema. That's a symptom of this protein insufficiency. Also, swollen abdomen. So it was interesting to me to realize how many of us are walking around with like bellies that are swollen. It's like a source of vanity for women. We're like, my tummy's swollen, I look like I'm 3 months pregnant. It's interesting that could be associated with low protein intake. Does SIBO, small intestinal bacterial microbial overgrowth and other, gut dysbiosis issues? Is there a correlation with low protein intake? I do believe that's the case. Okay, fatty liver. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is a big issue for, women and men ages 35 and beyond. If you have a fatty liver, it can be traced back to a protein insufficiency, which I think is really interesting and kind of cool, right? There's also, actual like alcohol fatty liver disease. So if that's an issue, that's a whole nother kettle of fish, right? But if you're drinking all the time and you're protein deficient, we've got a bigger issue going on. I would advocate for you to start increasing your protein intake with animal foods. All right. Skin changes is another form of a symptom of kwashiorkor, but for subclinical kwashiorkor, right? Are there other skin changes that you've been noticing? Is your skin, more wrinkly than it should be at the age of 35 or 40 or whatever, Is your skin dry all the time? Is there acne popping up when you're 40 years old and you shouldn't have acne? Those skin changes can be associated with a low protein intake. Depigmentation of hair, please do not look too close, all right? Women, men, happening at a younger age that many of us are starting to go gray more quickly. That's what depigmentation of hair means. It means you're less brunette, less blonde, and less red than you used to be. That could be a symptom of protein insufficiency. All right, impaired immunity. That's another thing that so many of us are dealing with. Not only people on the autoimmune spectrum, like myself and most of my clients, but also just people who get sick all the time. If you chronically suffer from sinus infections, if you're getting colds all the time, if you always feel like you're under the weather, if you're, sick with Epstein-Barr reactivations all the time, check your protein intake. Increase your protein intake. I would highly advise you to do that. Anemia, another symptom. This is something that many of my young clients present with. So my girls under the age of 15, if you are anemic or you've ever been anemic, I guarantee you need more protein. If anemia is part of this picture of subclinical kwashiorkor and it's something that you or your children suffer from, definitely start eating more meat. All right. And then finally, lethargy is the last thing in my textbook. So those people that are tired all the time, and lethargy is different from just being, I'm tired because I stayed up too late. I'm tired, because I ate crappy food and I know it's affecting me. Lethargy is, associated with that long-term fatigue where you really are just so tired that it's hard for you to go about doing your normal activities. Lots of moms suffer from this. So, if you are interested in pursuing a healthier lifestyle and you don't want to spend any money, eat more protein. All right. I mean, you have to spend money on the protein, but you don't have to hire a coach, right? You just have to look at how much protein you're eating per day, keeping in mind that the body turns over between 300 and 400 grams of protein a day. Look, there's no way that you can eat that much protein per day. But the average American only gets about 100 grams of protein a day. And from what I observe from most women, you're not even getting that much protein, especially if you're dabbling in a vegan or vegetarian or, a lifestyle that is more plant-centric. Again, you will get some, hey, Nicole, you will get some protein from your plants if you're including things like, beans, of course, but you are not getting of the essential amino acids. Plant-based protein does not have all of your essential amino acids, which you absolutely need, for muscle protein synthesis, right? And then also for proper degradation of the body, breaking down those cells that are ready to be broken down and excreted because they're old and busted, right? So what I would encourage you to do today for yourself, for your husbands, for your children, for those people that you are responsible of caretaking, your elderly parents, your best friend, it doesn't matter. You need to make sure that those around you are getting sufficient amounts of protein so that you don't have to suffer from this, whatever, subclinical kwashiorkor, you don't have to say that. But essentially what it is we are all as Americans suffering from this, protein deficiency disease. And it's kind of an easy fix. There's no supplements that can fix that. You don't have to spend $500 on supplements a month. You just got to eat more meat. So anyways, I know people don't love it that I always tell them to eat more meat, but I'm just trying to give you a clinical reason, a biochemical reason as to why it is, because your body needs 300 to 400 grams of protein a day just to keep itself alive and doing what it's supposed to be doing. So if you're interested in anti-aging capabilities, of different foods, meat's actually your friend. If you're interested in foods that make you stronger and faster and sleep better, meet's your friend. So, if that's something you don't want to do on your own, remember we do start the 28-day reset on January 6th. You already know there's plenty of meat in the 28-day reset, not too much. Everyone tends to feel really good when they just start incorporating more whole foods. We do it together as a team, and it's really fun. So let me know if you have any questions on that. Let me know if you have any questions on kwashiorkor or protein deficiency. And do remember that it's really important for us as, responsible humans to raise up our next generation of children in the healthiest way possible. Obviously, we're responsible for like their moral and, like character development, their spiritual development. Those things are of course of primary importance, but you're not going to be able to function with those things correctly if your basic nutritional needs aren't met. You want your kids to be able to be out playing and learning and being active, and this is a great way for you to be able to help them do that. So hope you guys have a great week.